Okay, so in this section of the class, I want to talk about some uh, tools for finding max patches, and also I'm going to go over kind of three famous max patches. So the best place to find max patches and just to learn more about Max is the Max user community. Now, when I started using Max, and for a long time thereafter, Max was a real secretive thing. Like people didn't talk about using Max because it was their secret weapon. Like you would build a tool in Max that it was your tool and you were the only one who had access to it. That was true for a long time, and it was actually, I think, a big problem for Cycling 74 because it was like reverse word of mouth, right? Like people were keeping it secret. But two things happened that really opened the door on that. One is that uh, a PC version of Max came out because prior to that, it had only been for Mac computers. Once the PC version came out, you really started to see people start using it a lot more and talk about using it. You saw big user communities start to form. Um, and that was really great. And then the second thing is Max for Live came along, and that really opened the door to where people were sharing patches, creating forums, doing all kinds of stuff. So the user community is really quite big, and there's a lot of people, and they're often happy to share things. You can go on the Cycling 74 website, and if you just go to the forums here, there's tons of information and there's tons of patches here. Um, like if we, look at something, like here's somebody who's working on something, and there's probably a patch hidden in here. So here's a screenshot of them working on a patch. Let's try this one. Here it is. So this person posted a patch. You can copy it or you can download it, and sometimes they post it as just those text things that you can just copy and then open. Sometimes if there's a bunch of extra stuff, you they just post the link and then you download it. So uh, cycling74.com/forums is a great place to find all kinds of stuff. A really warm community of people willing to help. So if you are working on something and you're having a problem with it, post it here and say, I don't know why this doesn't work. And people will chime in and they'll be really helpful. It's really great, actually. So that's a good one. But there's another one. There's another one that's kind of the cream of the crop, especially when it comes to Max for Live patches. So let's talk about that in a new video. Okay, this little unassuming site here is maxforlive.com. This site is huge and it has tons of stuff on here, like an insane amount of patches. Some of them are for sale, some of them are free. I'd probably say most of them are free, probably. But let's look for something. Let's say we want to let's look for an audio device. And here's just tons and tons of audio devices, right? Like tape head. Here's a tape head, kind of simulates running something through an old cassette. This is what the creator of it said. I wish I could carry my tape recorder around everywhere. I made this Max for Live device to help this. Cool. Here's device details. Here's more description and the download link right here. So we can go get it. Once we go there, we may or may not have to pay for it. If we do have to pay for it, it's probably a couple bucks and it'll go right to this maker. I don't think Max for Live takes any money or anything, but there are just an insane amount of things here. Latency fixer, FM2 modulation, next page. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Tools for everything you can imagine. So if you just typed in like, I want something that does pads, I don't know, here's like a million things that come up, right? Like, what is that? Look at that crazy huge thing. So, I mean, it goes on and on and on. So, check out max4live.com. That's like a #1 resource for you to find all kinds of stuff. Okay, next I want to talk about a few famous Max patches. And I put famous in quotes here because we're talking about kind of a small community. But um, this kind of goes back to that thing I was just talking about people using Max in secrecy for a long time. Not so much anymore. I think people that use it now, especially in pop music, are pretty proud that they use it because it shows a level of nerdiness that many bands can't get to. But people were really secretive about patches, and that's especially true. Like, we're going to look at the Autechre patch in a minute, which is impossible to use, but it's available. And the story is that it's available because somebody stole it off somebody else's hard drive or something like that. It's really strange. The first one we'll look at is actually included within Max. It's just something that a lot of people have used and it's become very famous. The second one, the Radiohead patch, we don't actually even have the patch. We know what it sounds like, and we have some images of it from stage shots. And some people have made some kind of mock-ups, and I'll show you one of those when we get there. But anyway, so these are kind of famous patches that people talk about all the time, and I just thought I'd show you how to track them down and make some sound with them to the extent that we can. Because when people make patches for themselves, they don't really document them. They don't say, click here to start the patch, because they just know. So when you get your hands on one of these patches, sometimes you just have to figure it out, and it can be hard. Okay, so let's do it. Let's start with Convolution Workshop. Okay, so this first one, Convolution Workshop, this is one that introduces a lot of people to Max, how Max works, and also what convolution is. So if you don't know what convolution is, it's basically a math process in which we take attributes of two things and make a new third thing. So it's like we can multiply two numbers together. You can also convolve two numbers together. So in the sound world, what that usually means is we can take two sounds, convolve them together, and generate a new third sound. And usually that sound will have some elements of both. For example, it might use the rhythm of one sound and the timbre or kind of pitch elements of the other sound. Okay? Now, doing this in real time is a relatively new thing. For a long time, we could do convolution with programs like SoundHack, and there's a few others, but it would do it in non-real time. You had to like set it up and then hit convolve, and then it would think for a couple hours, then you'd come back and hear what you got. So this Convolution Workshop patch kind of taught us that you can do it in real time in Max, which is wild. So let me show you this patch. First of all, how do we find it? If you have a full version of Max, you probably already have it. This is built into Max now. So in order to find it, I'm going to go to File and then Show File Browser. That's going to open this thing. And then type in convolution to the search window, and then you'll find it. I have two versions of it. I have an old one and a new one. This is the new one that's open now. But you can also just search your hard drive, but this is faster for me. So there we go, convolutionworkshop.maxpatch. Okay, and here it is. So how does this thing work? Let's look at the UI elements. So these little gray boxes will come to be a little familiar to you. This is like a media player box. Okay, so source is the sound file. We can change that with these drop downs here. File, rain stick. Just try this first using the default files. So let's leave it as Rainstick, or we can drag a sound file here. That's cool. Okay, so we can start that playing. This volume right here. Okay, so this is cool. We're hearing a Rainstick. Now we go over here. Here's a drum loop. Okay, now there's a drum loop playing. We don't hear it yet. Okay, let's not worry about the code stuff here. Let's not worry about any of that. But here there's a little comment. It says, experiment with adjusting the balance between the two sounds. So this is a slider I can click on. Okay, so here it says noise. I can go over here, and it's the drum loop. Okay, noise, drum loop. Okay, so now if I set this thing right in the middle, it's going to be the two sounds convolved together. Right, so now it's using the rhythm. There we go. It's using the rhythm of the drum loop and the sounds of the Rainstick. Turn it up a little bit. Okay, and this is our output volume. Okay, and I'm gonna stop this for a second. This little thing down here is an important thing that when you see it in a patch, it basically, it's not gonna have this little start audio comment on it. You might just see this little speaker icon. And what that means is that you're not gonna hear any sound until you click on it. Okay, so now sound is off for this whole patch. And sometimes your whole max version. So we gotta turn that on to start audio when you see that. Okay, so this is Convolution Workshop. It's really kind of neat. You can put some sounds in there and convolve them together. Let's do something crazy and just switch this to be my mic. Do, 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 do. Ah. It's working pretty well. The problem is that you're hearing it through everything. Maybe it's recording better. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, up next, the Radiohead patch, or more accurately, the Radiohead patches. So Jonny Greenwood, the guitarist of Radiohead, and some would argue kind of one of the masterminds behind Radiohead, is a big fan of Max, particularly for running his guitar through it and getting kind of glitch effects. That was the kind of most notable thing that he would do with it live anyway. This article, kingofgear.com, has this cool article about it. Basically, you can hear it really well on the songs Go to Sleep, Airbag, 2 + 2 = 5, Feral, and some others. Sometimes he samples the whole band. So we don't actually have the patch, but for these glitch effects, we can kind of reconstruct it. So here is an early picture of one of the patches from Jonny Greenwood's rig. Here's another one from on stage. You know, obviously we can't like rebuild that just from that. Here's another one. This looks like that same one from above, from the same as the first one. So we can see record. He's got some. This is kind of a matrix module. Lets you kind of set inputs and outputs and kind of make a little matrix of events. These look like sine waves, a bunch of different dials. This looks like a relatively simple drum machine patch. Something a little different. Looper patch. full band looper patch. So now he's sampling a whole band in real time. It's tricky. Yeah, so we don't have access to any of these patches. No one's leaked them yet, as far as I know. However, I found on the Cycling 74 forum, someone saying, well, the glitcher patch is kind of like this. So let's check that out. So I just copied it from the text. I'm going to go to Max, File, New from Clipboard, and this is what was made. So it looks like nothing, but it's all over here. I just need to make the window bigger. Okay, so what have we got here? This person says audio on and gain up equals on. Okay, so audio on is going to be here. So first we need to lock this patcher because it is open. That means if I click on something, I'm going to move it around. I don't want to do that. So when that happens, hit this little lock icon down here. Okay, now I'm actually using the patch. Okay, so audio on. Okay, cool. And then it says gain up. That's going to be down here. He says gain. Let's turn it up. Blah, 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 blah. This is my guitar solo. Neat. Okay, that's maddening. Let's turn that down. So basically what he's got here, it looks like he's got an EQ that's just randomly moving around. And then he's got something that's chopping up the sound that's coming in real time. Then I've got a volume. He's also transposing it quite a bit. It looks like 3 octaves by this envelope speed. Oh, that doesn't sound like 3 octaves. So we're playing around with the pitch quite a bit and glitching it out in some kind of stuttery way. Wow, that's annoying. It's cool, but it's annoying. So you can find this patch if you go to cycling74.com forums, Jonny Greenwood. You'll find it about halfway down the page, right there. Cool. Okay, let's look at my favorite of these most famous patches. Okay, the Autechre patch. Now, first of all, what's on Autechre? Autechre is a band, sort of a group of 2 producers, really super influential. I don't want to say avant-garde, but it's a little out there, a lot of their stuff. Their earlier stuff, not so much. But it kind of borders on the IDM. Maybe the earlier stuff had a little bit more of a techno vibe, but it's definitely more abstract than your average pop producer. So they've been using Max for a really long time, and supposedly they put out this patch that is almost a complete album. I heard, although I can't find something that verifies this, that what this patch does is basically generate music, and they recorded a ton of it and then chopped it up, and that was an album. I don't know if that's true, but they definitely used a lot of it. So the story goes, patches were stolen on a USB drive. I heard that it was a computer tech. Like they hired a computer tech to come to their studio and fix some computer stuff. And when he was in there, he was like, ooh, and grabbed this patch. Whatever it was, it's out in the open now. It's been for a long time. This is not a new patch. This is quite old. Like even this post is 2008. So this was probably, I don't know, it's really old. But let's check it out. So we're going to click on here to copy it. And then we're going to go to Max. New from Clipboard. There we are. All right, this thing is big and ugly. And it's even bigger. Okay, cool. So, this is hard because this tells us nothing. There's no information in here about how to use this thing. We hear this kind of phaser thump going, and something's modulating it somewhere because it kind of comes and goes a little bit. We see two volume controls down here. Okay, that's that, and then this is probably the other one. Yep. Okay, cool. We've got all kinds of buttons all over the place, so we could try clicking those. We also have this. This is a UI element that's basically a bunch of different sliders. So we could turn different things up. Okay, cool. This is a preset module. This means there's like saved states of this patch built into here. So let's click on some of those. No, there doesn't appear to be anything here. Okay. More sliders we can play around with. Master volume. Okay. Got a lot happening now. It just goes on, and there's no way to know. Well, there is a way to know what things are doing, but you'd have to unwind all this stuff. It would take forever. It would take years to really figure out everything that's happening here. So what I like about this patch is just clicking and exploring. Now this patch, I'm gonna mute this patch for a minute here. This patch does bring us up to an interesting thing that we haven't talked about yet. In the first patch we looked at, the Convolution Workshop patch, I had to lock it in order to use it. That was this button way down here. Now this one, if I lock it, nearly everything goes away. And what that means is that there's something called presentation mode, which means we can hide stuff when it's locked. So all the code is just kind of hidden. And this is the only stuff you really need to do things, is what they're kind of telling you. But I want us to see all the other things in here, so I need to leave it unlocked. So if you want to interact with the patch while it's unlocked, you just hold down the command key on a Mac or the similar key on a PC, and then you can move things around. So like this is unlocked, so if I click on this, I'm just gonna move this thing around. That's not what I want to do. I want to interact with it. So I hold down command, and then when I click on it, I'm actually interacting with it. Cool? Okay. Now this really goes crazy. Okay, so this is our tempo, sort of. Cool. This is getting weirder. Anyway, I could do this all day, literally all day. So what I want you to do, if you want this patch, you can go to cycling74.com/forums/Autechre or just search Google for Max Autechre patch, and you'll find it. Be sure you spell Autechre correctly. It's a little weird word. And also check out the music of Autechre, because it's awesome.